Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Red Wine and Cigarettes. It's me, Popo. I'm with Lindiwe and Sibusi as usual. And tonight on our panel, we are joined by Vos Mande. Welcome, Vos. Thank you for joining us. Cheers, guys. Cheers, 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 cheers.
Hello, everyone.
Vos, before
Another
we
one.
start into the topic,
This one.
please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, what do you want to know?
Whatever you like.
But okay, my name is Vosum Zinglande, and I am a multidisciplinary creative. I'm a graphic designer, I'm a writer, a filmmaker, and right now I'm here to talk. I'm a talker.
Mm-hmm. He is a talker.
Keep it simple. to keep it simple.
I used to read a lot of Vos stuff on Facebook, and I really appreciate the way you engage with topics. And I found that you really dig. You know, I found your post to be quite thought provoking, well thought out. So I thought it would be important to have you on this platform. You know, because we're also
Thank you.
we're really passionate about having real conversation about things that matter, you know? So the topic tonight is the gender divide, right? We know that it's a heteronormative approach to the topic of relationships. And we know that it's not only heterosexuals or Black people who watch our show, but our experience has been of Black love. The people on this platform, from their experiences, can speak on Black love, you know. And the girls and I were speaking, and I think we're just quite disgruntled with the way the Black male and the Black female relate at this point. It's uncomfortable, it's unhealthy, it's divided, and we just wanted to talk about why we are where we are. Vos, any thoughts?
You know what? It's true what you're saying, in that we're living in a very challenging time, and in that a lot of the wounds that we carry as people are sort of coming about, and I think is because we as a we are a generation that's sort of coming of age. We are becoming batho ba bagolo, if I can put it that way. And now we're dealing with ntho tsa batho ba bagolo. And the reason why this is becoming significant is because this is the age at which people are forming families, right? And then a lot of people, even like people, some people are trying to get into like serious partnerships. Some people are having kids. Some people are trying to get long-term partners and stuff. And I think what's happening is that we are being triggered in what we encounter, in that our upbringing, our different backgrounds of upbringing are sort of coming to the fore, right? But more than anything, I think what the most significant thing that is happening is that women are gaining their voice, right? Because a lot of what we're dealing with is not new. The only thing that is new is that, or the only thing that is different is that women are being more vocal about what their experiences are. There's the you know, the concept of upegezela is not. Women have seen the consequences of it. They've seen what comes of it, you know. And also what's happening is that I think we are living in a different time, in that structurally our lives are very different from how they used to be back in Makai. In that back then, you would have, as a woman, you would always have a sort of a age, a very wide spectrum of women around you at any given point. You always have, for example, like you always have your elders around you. You'd have, you know, your grandmothers, and because of how communal life was, you would always spend time with older women, and then they would sort of guide you through how to handle certain things. And then they also then perpetuated that whole thing of, you know, how to keep secrets. And, you know, you would always have an elder on call, so to say, you know, if you had this kind of problem, because they kept the whole philosophy of sort of keeping the dignity of the family, that a woman, you know. But now, because we're living in flats, we're living in townhouses, we're living in this, a lot of our generation, we're finding ourselves isolated. So we are coming across challenges whereby there is no one to say, okay, no, do this. You know, for example, just the basic thing of how many single mothers are there right now compared to back in those days. There was no such thing as a single mother. A child had like 5 mothers at any given time. You know what I mean? You had you were never without a mother of any kind. Whereas now, you know, so many people and couples and people, they are facing a lot of things on their own, and they're realizing that not speaking about what's happening is not going to lead to anything better, you know. And a lot of women are also realizing that the dream was an illusion, you know, the economic realities of the dream are actually more harsh. So, you know, like, women are realizing that the trying to wait for a man to come provide is not working out, you know. Trying to like, what is this thing that we like saying about build a man, you know, it doesn't work out. So I think that's contributing to this moment was gonna come. You know, this moment was gonna come. We are just unfortunate that we are the generation to have to go through this. And I think everything that is happening right now in our generation, be it economically, spiritually, there's COVID, like, everything is forcing us to face all our traumas, whether we like it or not. We were talking now about, you know, the lockdown. It forces you to sit and literally go through your entire self. So I think in many ways, in a broader scheme, I think it is the most pivotal. We are the most pivotal generation, because we are going to decide the direction that Black people are going to take. Because we have to navigate through a plague, a crisis, you know, economic meltdowns, shifting, you know what I mean? So, but just to bring it back, I think this is why, you know, the gender divide is there. And there's ways in which it's becoming toxic, and there's ways in which it's becoming constructive. And I think what complicates things is also social media, because social media is not objective as much as we want it. We would like to be like, no, you know, social media is real life. It's not. Social media, the algorithm is rigged to only pick up on negativity, you know. If you go on Twitter, like, the system works on pushing as much negativity as, because that's where it gets its revenue from. So then it forces us to then only focus on the absolute negative of absolutely everything that we encounter, you know. So it creates, it is a platform, but I think it keeps distorting. We need to be talking, yes, but then it tends to sort of guide the conversation towards the negative more than anything else.
You know, I think, I was thinking about how our freedom, how democracy, how all of that may have affected where we are right now. You know, something I always say to my kid is that rights come with responsibility, you know, but we are babies at this rights thing. We are babies at this, I'm speaking for women, having a voice thing. Really, we've now got options. We've now got access, you know, and now you were speaking about social media right now, and now you're scrolling through Facebook, you know, and you're hearing men ain't ish. The value of men is being brought into question now. You're like, I don't need a man. I got my own. I make my own money. I got my own car. I got my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think as much as we did need more of a voice, and as much as we did need more access to a lot of things, there's a balance that's being missed. Sibs?
Yeah.
Okay, so agree with most of what everyone has said. I do believe that, I've said this before, if you follow social media, you're messing your own self up, because social media feeds you what social media is going to give you. There's been a conversation the past 2 days on Twitter talking about a man who's going to buy you things. And for me, that is not within my, like, I don't care about that. You know what I mean? And I keep on looking at all these trends that are happening on Twitter, on Facebook, and I'm just like, this isn't for me. Like, I'm not trying to find a man because he can buy me something. I'm trying to find a man because he loves me and I love him and we have a relationship. So Twitter and social media feeds us too much rubbish. Does that make sense? We're not allowed to almost just be like, no, I disagree. This is who I am and this is what I want. So I agree on the social media thing. Social media, you need to take with a pinch of salt. You need to be able to go salt and laugh and then put it aside, because a lot of the times the same people who are talking rubbish on social media, I know I post memes on social media about stuff, about relationships. Meanwhile, back at home, I'm cooking. I'm like, baby, what do you want tonight? So we need to be careful about what we absorb on social media. I think that's so important, because as you've said, we've got all these freedoms, but we don't know how to almost navigate them. Some of us do, but most of us don't, because social media is made to absorb you. It's made to propaganda you. That's exactly what it's made for. I'm a marketer. I know that. I use all that every single day. I'm like, oh, you said what? And I will use that against you. It's the same with every single subject line that happens on social media. Let's be careful, guys. You need to know who you are. You need to dig in deep into who you are, and also dig deep into who your partner is. If you spend time with your partner outside of social media and you know who your partner is, you can build a much stronger relationship. We are too stuck. I love social media. I'm on social media every single day, all the time. But I agree with Lucy in that it really does narrate and give us this narrative of what people should be, and that narrative is wrong. 90% of the time it's wrong. It's based on stupid things that we know nothing about. We are not materialistic people. Majority of us are not materialistic people. I'm seeing a lot of materialistic stuff happening on social media. We're not. Our hearts aren't. We just want love. We just want to be loved, right? So social media for me, I'm big on saying stop consuming what you see on social media as word. You need to learn to laugh and take it with a pinch of salt.
You guys have said so much. I definitely, I think my biggest issue and something that I feel is really important for me to pass on to my daughter is, yes, be strong, be driven. You can do anything that you want to do, but also I will definitely encourage her to embrace what makes her a woman, to embrace her softness. You know what I mean? I personally have an issue with being a feminist, meaning I don't want to cook anymore. I don't want to take care of my home. I don't want to be nurturing anymore. I'm not trying to be a man. I think the woman, there's certain things that are inherent to the woman that are inherent in her.
Like what? Like what? Like what?
That are inherent. That when different things appeal to the different genders. You know, I'm not saying that you must be a helper in the house. But when a woman cooks for a man, it does something for him. when a man opens the door for a woman, it's not the same effect the other way around. I'm just saying that there's certain things in the male and in the female that speak to the other gender in a very specific way that you don't have to reject just because you're a CEO. Or I think that women are beginning to divorce themselves from their softness and from things in them that appeal to the man. You know, and there's nothing wrong with it. We don't have to be the same. We were built to gel in harmony, but we're not the same thing. It's like puzzle pieces. So if you're a square and I'm a square, it doesn't work. That's just how I feel. Lynn?
Wow, a lot has been said that I wanted to comment on, but the something that I was reminded of in the beginning of the conversation was a conversation we had with some of our friends a few months ago regarding gender functions, gender roles within relationships. And talking about how, because of the times that we live in, things have evolved and changed. Women are no longer in a position where you can, like you were saying earlier, you can sit and wait for a man to come along and provide for you. You kind of need to figure out how to make money and make ends meet and build your life on your own before you end up even meeting that man that you want to be, you want to spend the rest of your life with. So then my question was, so then what are we looking for then in our partners? So we evaluate that. Am I looking for a person who's going to, like all those fairy tales we were fed when we were younger, and the stories you were told, or the facade you showed growing up as a child, that am I now waiting for a man who's coming to whisk me off, buy me this big, amazing house, I'll give him 5 children, he'll make sure all the kids go to school, and he pays for the bond and everything. But then let's say, for instance, I meet a man who isn't able to do all of that. And I am able to provide for our family financially. What then am I looking for in a man? Is he less of a man because he is not able to, let me not use the word provide, simply because he's not able to meet those standards that I was raised to feel that a man must fulfill? I'm not saying that a man mustn't want to look after his home or want to look after his family. What I'm saying is times have changed, and we can no longer look at the opposite sex and be like, because you don't know how to cook, there are women that don't know how to cook, there are women that don't like cooking, does not mean that you're not a worthy life partner. So we're talking about how we need to adapt and kind of open our minds a bit in terms of how we view the opposite sex and how we value the opposite sex, how we value our partners. And therein lies the issue. Someone was saying we need to relook and teach our children what the current value proposition is for the male and the female, or for your potential partners, because it's not what it was back in the day. Because you're going to learn out. You're not going to be able to build a life with someone when you have this box and they need to tick all the things that are inside this box. But our lives aren't accommodating that right now. Like a single income household is not the wisest thing to do when there's 2 adults who can have jobs and go make money and come back. We need to relook how we perceive the partner that we want in our lives and be realistic about what we want from our partners. Be realistic about what is possible and why do I want this? Why do I want someone to come and save me? Is that a healthy thing for me? We need to look at all of these things and come to some form of common ground. And like Sibs had said earlier, not every relationship is going to be the same. We're all different human beings. I'm a very feminine woman. So I would definitely be more attracted to a man who's rather masculine and is protective, whereas another woman has a few more masculine qualities and would be comfortable with a man who's kind of has feminine qualities that he's comfortable with, So we really need to look at things individually and not have this whole blanket system of how to live life and how to react to each other.
Yeah, I think what the challenge that we're facing is that we have a belief that there needs to be a universal view of something. Like we need to have a unified understanding. Like, okay, as Black people, what's the game plan? This is what we're doing as, you know, the long-term goal. Currently, I think as a generation, we're kind of aware that we have a duty, a generational duty of some kind. But I think the challenge then, what becomes a challenge is that there's a disjointed understanding of which part of it should we actually focus on. Ultimately, we believe that the end goal is a strong family unit, right? But before we get there, there's steps, you know. Before we get there, there's mojolo, there is, you know, kids, because we all know as a generation, kids come before marriage, standard. Like, I don't know how else to, you know what I mean? Kids are coming before marriage. But at the same time, it's like, which one are we talking about? Which part of this process are we actually talking about? Because when we start talking about partners, we tend to then want to confuse hojola lo nyala. You know what I mean? Like we tend to want to confuse the dating period with the marriage period, where we're like, you know, no, what are you bringing to the table? Like nothing, rajola. Like I'm bringing drinks to the table. You know what I mean? Like and then we want to force long-term things on short-term relationships and say, you know, and you sort of want to create this perception that you're in it for the long haul. In every single relationship, you're looking for a long-term partner. And I think that's we are struggling to divorce ourselves from that, of saying like, be fine with the relationship that ended because you were not looking for anything that was long-term, but we want to act as if every relationship that ends is a divorce, you know, that this very big thing has happened. But at the same time, we don't want to put in long-term work. You know what I mean? Like, because long-term work is not nice. Long-term work is not nice. 20-year marriage is work, you know, even if it's just a partnership. If we're talking 10, 20 years, that's a lot of work, you know, but but it's not nice. So I think we want to then sort of reap long-term benefits in a short-term relationship. So then we come out bitter and saying, you know, and we use our inherent traumas, you know, from our upbringing as a barometer, yaojola, when we should use it as a barometer in a long-term relationship. Like, you know, I want a man who's potentially going to be a husband, who's potentially going to be different to my father, type of thing. You know what I mean? So then we conflate the situation, and we want so much out of something that we ourselves are not willing to sort of give into, because we come up with our own sets of personalized traumas. And this is the thing that I was sort of talking to about on with some of friends on Facebook about this thing of there's this rhetoric of, if you want to date a person, you was try to get to know their upbringing first, because some people say if you find out a person's upbringing, it's going to tell you a lot about the potential of that relationship or that person's potential in your life. But then my question is then, what is a kind of no-go type of upbringing? You know, what are those things that a person will say, like, I grew up like this and like this? On the first date, where you're going to say, okay, you know, I'm not going to be a part of this. Because when we say check a person's background, we automatically sort of trying to cater to our own natural traumas of saying, I know the situation, I know I saw it with my mother, I saw it with my father, or that person, you know, they also be reenacting that. And we sort of try to merge a lot of very complicated things into one. And that's also part of what's creating the gender divide, because women are sort of, and this is I'm just my opinion, I'm not saying I understand, but from my experience with you know, the women in my life, is that they respond a lot from their own upbringing, their experiences with the men that they grew up with, and the different relationships that they had, you know. And I think another thing, that going back to this thing that I was saying about, we don't know which part of our big plan we're focusing on. If you want to actually figure out where we are in terms of the gender divide and how potentially it's going to play out in the future, is that we should look at how we communicate with our kids. You know, for example, well, as you were saying, you know, it's very, very, most of the time when you come online and you want to hear and you will read about what parents are saying to their children, most of the time you find what women are saying to their daughters, right? It's very rare to hear what sons are being told. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want my daughter to be this. She must be independent. Don't wait for a man. Do things for yourself. Don't wait for Prince Charming. You know, be independent, be self-sufficient in whatever. And then what are the sons being told? It's eerily silent on that part. And what that shows you is that we actually don't know where men fit in society.
Yeah.
Right. Especially in the dynamic that we live now, where the concept of the man being the provider is shifting, you know, because what I think what we haven't actually noticed is that capitalism doesn't actually care about patriarchy. Capitalism cares about money, and that's just it, right? So what's happening now is that there's a strange battle between patriarchy and capitalism. And now, you know, the trend, what is going to start becoming clear is that women are actually more capable of certain things in the economy than men are. For example, we can say that you know, the man is the provider, but if you really, really, really look, if you're really honest with yourself and look at your own upbringing, your father might have earned more than your mother, but your mother made it work. Right? Or it will be shocking the number of people who will actually tell you that I don't know where my father's money went every month. You know, he would do this and that and this and that, but you know, that's about it. The rest of it, you know, you'll find that mothers within a married family were paying school fees, were buying clothes, were doing this, were doing that, even though the father was the provider. You know what I mean? But what that says is that women are actually better, not all of them obviously, but generally they're better at finances, right? Yeah. And in the next coming decade or so, there's going to be, as people lose their jobs and whatever, you'll realize that men can't handle not having finances, right? So it means it's actually women who are going to be driving families. It's women who are going to be driving the economy. Right. And then my question then becomes, even to myself, is that in that context, if I'm talking to myself, if I'm talking to my male friends, but especially if we were talking to our sons, our nephews, is that when you don't have the capacity to provide, where do you fit in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you can't be the provider, what is your role?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because that's when the issue with men believing that there's certain things that only women do becomes a problem, because when you can't provide, then you have to do those womanly things. You know what I mean? And now we are uncomfortable with those things. And I think, but that kind of shows you, you know, the direction in which we're going.
You wanted to say something?
Basically in response to what Vos has said, just a small tidbit. I'm raising a son, and he's 15 now. And I must say, I've found it a bit tricky to balance what you were talking about, Vos, in terms of helping him understand his value apart from bringing in money into a home. Because we've had lots of conversations, and he's expressed to me that he wants to get married one day and have a family and all of that. So that's what he wants. Yeah. So now I'm in a place where I'm trying to help him identify with himself apart from only having an income, because we've been living life and we understand that things don't always work out the way we want them to. A person can have an amazing job for 10 years and then one day you get retrenched.
Yeah, then COVID happened.
Yes, and then what? You know, and the woman in the home is the one who probably works in the place where they're part of essential services and she's bringing in the money. So then how do we balance that out? And I don't have an answer, but I must say that I have been kind of aware of how to raise a young man, but also not quite sure of how do I help him feel that he is of value no matter what situation he's in, and to bring out that value no matter what? How do we do that?
Here's the thing. I think that, you know, we can engage on how do we raise the boy, how do we raise the girl, but work has to be done on both sides, right? I'll give you an example. I grew up in a family where when my parents were already married and had 3 children, my dad got a scholarship to go get his master's at Columbia in New York. He had a wife and 3 kids already. We all went to the States, and for 5 years, my mother was the breadwinner, right? My dad was on a student stipend, so my mom was the breadwinner. My dad, you know, was just, but I found that the dynamic within the home wasn't emasculating anything towards my dad. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So I saw that growing up, right? So now, years later, I grow up, and I don't know, I think that your childhood experiences tend to affect a lot, because I then found myself in a few situations where I subconsciously, I think it was a subconscious thing, would always choose the man who has potential. I see potential that I want to nurture and grow and water. I'm going as far as
you want to build a man,
supporting him, right? So I saw that modeled in a healthy way, right? But then we came home, my dad had his master's, then he started making more than my mom, and everyone was happy, and he did the right thing. That wasn't my experience. In my situations. In my situations, guy came up and guy rolled out. You get what I mean? And then it got confusing for me, because then my mom was speaking about patience. She was like, Talisa, these projects of yours are patient. Once a patient has healed, they discharge themselves from the hospital. You know, but I think that maybe she was speaking within the parameters of, I did this within a marriage. I had more security. It made sense. You did this with a boyfriend. You know, I think that's probably where but does that make it...
Exactly. This is what I was saying, in that we are struggling to figure out which part of the game plan we're at. You know, we want to believe that there's an ideal that we're supposed to have as Black people, and I strongly believe that our future lies within the family unit. You know, because I believe that once there's a strong family unit, then you can build something very, very solid, and not just for yourself, because then you know that and for your immediate child, because then you know that you're building for a longer term. You know, but now, like your mom said, you know, you were trying to create a marriage goal within Mojolo, you know, which is tricky, and I think we need to approach our relationships, our dating relationship. We need to approach Umjolo in a different way, and stop trying to force it to be a long-term thing. And be conscious of the fact that, okay, I'm going into this, and I am conscious of the fact that this is not going to be long term. I'm not saying I have a cutoff point in saying after a year I'm going to cut it off. But I think when you do that, you're sort of giving yourself more room, you know, to should things not work out, then you won't be like, it won't be as if this is like the worst thing that could have happened to you as a person. You'll be like, oh, okay, this has ended, and I still know that there'll still be other things to come, you know. And I think in a way, maybe I'm assuming that, you know, this will be part of what maybe then turns the divide, since we're talking about it. But I think also the biggest thing about the divide is that we don't know what this balance is that we're looking for. You know, Lindy always said, like, you know, there's trying to teach her son this thing about a balance, but I don't think we actually know what the balance actually is.
Yeah.
And what makes it worse is that we don't know what a universal ideal balance is. You know, we're grasping at bits and pieces, and I think this is partly why Will and Jada trended so much last week, because there are two people who found a balance, who were like, you know, this is us. But now, because we inherently want to believe, like, no, there's a balance that we all agree on, and there's a balance that fits absolutely everyone's circumstance, and a balance that fits everyone's inherent traumas, you know, and a balance that fits all of our wounds, and you know what I mean, like, and I think it's scary to say that there is no such thing as a universal balance, and I don't know what scares us so much about that. I don't know. It's like you're breaking up a band, like you're breaking up a friendship to say, guys, there is no universal ideal. Like, let's just understand. It's scary. I don't know. Like, it sends, you know, vibrations throughout the whole society. Like, there is no such thing, because it feels like, then what are we doing? If you're saying that there is no universal ideal, then what is it that we're doing?
Yeah.
You know, it's like all of a sudden the boat loses its wind. Like, now we're just stuck in the middle of nowhere. We don't know where we're going. What is it that we're trying to work for? Because if we have to, like, all pull in a different direction, there's a fear of, I don't know, I think as human beings, we fear annihilation, we fear disappearing. And I think that's what is scaring us. We fear that if I accept my personal ideal as just my own circumstances, I'm going to disappear from society. You know, how society was trying to write off Will and Jada and say, you know, they are an anomaly. They should be written off. You know, Jada this, Will that, and this, that. You know, we're afraid to stand against that tide of saying, they made their own decision. I don't agree with it. I agree with some of it. But I think if we're really honest with ourselves, most of our relationships will not resemble other relationships.
Yeah. True. Sibs?
Agree. Sorry, guys, I had issues with my Wi-Fi. So I'm in load shedding. The lights came back on. My Wi-Fi came back on, but because I was using my data, etc. Anyways, agreed with what you just said. As someone who, I'm a divorcee. I'm a divorcee from an amicable divorce, which is very rare. Most people
apparently.
And I had an amicable divorce. If you see me with my ex-husband, you would not even know that these two people are divorced, right? But that's because we decided on that. That's what we decided. We decided that as much as we are no longer together, this is the side of, it's an element of Black love that we want to be. We still want to have, it's not a family unit because we don't live together, but we respect each other as human beings. We respect the fact that we've got another human being in between the two of us whom we love dearly. And that's why we are the way that we are, and people go, I don't get it. At the same time, you have to find, because I've done that, you have to find who you are. Will and Jada have made themselves have what they have works. You have to find what works for you as well. Not everything that works in another relationship will work for you. You have to, the both of you go, all right, what's going to work for us as a unit? What do you want? What do I want? How do we achieve this? Can we achieve this? And if we can't achieve this, okay. And if we can achieve it, how do we work harder at it? We're so obsessed as Black people of abantu bazotini and my parents, blah, blah, blah. Dude, your parents have got issues, got mad issues that they can't fix. I'm just saying. So you need to, when you get into a relationship and you go, I want to be with this person for the rest of my life, whether it's marriage, whether it's a partnership, or whatever it is, what's going to work for us? What are our rules of engagement? Remember we talked about rules of engagement last week? What are our rules of engagement as a couple? And I think once we as Black people go, we need to stop cookie cutting. Okay, a relationship and it worked because they did this. This one worked because they did this. You need to stop cookie cutting that. And you must also chase your own happiness. As both of you, you must always chase it. People always say to me, Sibs, oh, you guys get along so much. Why didn't you stay together? I say, because we're chasing our happiness. If you chase your happiness and you find your happiness, you will be even a much better human being for someone else. Does that make sense? Yeah. So for me, Black love is also, I'm going to be so controversial here. Black love is also allowing, as Christina Aguilera said, they say if you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. Black love is also letting something go and going, okay, it's not working, right? Too many times we stay together because abantu bazothini. Yeah. And then we become toxic, and then the issues come, and then yes, amadoda aso, yes, abafazi baso. No, when it has never ever been like that, and when you started out, it was beautiful. That's just my thing. Like, you have to live your lives for each other. So know what you want, know what he wants, and then work towards that. And that's the most important thing. Not everybody else around you, because if you are happy and if he is happy, then the unit becomes happy.
Yeah. Okay, so this Will and Jada thing keeps coming up a lot. I don't want to speak about the Will and Jada thing. I want to speak about something that happened around the Will and Jada thing on social media. I found that women especially, no, let me not say women especially, it was almost like the two genders were now suddenly facing each other, and it was like, okay, face off. You know what I mean? When men were like, she said, oh, what, and women were like, yeah, but when you guys do it, wrong, guys, why is it? Let me give you another example with the GBV that's going on in our country. I'm on this group. I won't say the name of the group on Facebook, but where they post about what's happening with femicide and now with this pregnant girl who was murdered. Suddenly, it was the boyfriend's wife who was involved, and men were like, yeah, so now what do you guys say? Now that it was one of your own, where does that come from? I'm like, why are you thinking about who's better, who's more? Do you get what I mean? Like, why is there no harmony? Why can't we coexist? Why is there always this competition? Why?
Can I tell you why? I have two answers for that. The one is, I'm gonna go back to the algorithm thing about social media, and I don't want to sound like I'm sort of pushing a conspiracy, but this is like a scientific fact. I think it was 2015 or so. Facebook did like its own internal study about how its actual algorithm was working, and what it found was that because Facebook works off of engagement, right? If there's more engagement, that's more ad space that you can charge more, and it found that the engagement centered around negative content, right? The more negative the content, the more the algorithm pushed those posts, those stories, that narrative across all different kinds of the spectrum of users, right? So what I'm getting at is that most of the time, if something trends, it trends for negative reasons, right? More often than not, it's going to be a negative, because basically Facebook created an algorithm where it said optimize engagement. You know, where you find engagement increases, focus on that. You know, it's like if you have a shop and say that sells different kinds of food, and you say which meal sells the most, focus on that. That's essentially what happened. You found that the negative stuff sells, right? And this is why a lot of the time you will only see the negative things that are being posted, and the negative things are the divisive content, the me versus you, us versus them part of it. But at the same time, on the other side of it, is that we are stuck in this sort of one man upship between men and women, in that women are sort of gaining their voice, and then men, having been so comfortable with not needing to have a voice, are sort of responding on, they're sort of trying to piggyback on women's movements, you know what I mean, or narratives that women are pushing, is that but it's never really like an independent thing on the side. We will talk when women talk, then we come in. When women say something offensive, then we come in. You know what I mean? Yeah, because we come from a generation where we're used to our voice being standard, and when you're so used to talking, you get used to not saying anything and thinking that everything that you're saying is common sense. And now that you're being challenged and you realize that logic is actually, someone is bettering your logic. I'm not going to say it's better logic, but someone is bettering your logic. You sort of want to use their mechanism of fighting. You know what I mean? We found that women are using a collective voice that sort of banks on, I'm going to express myself regardless of the consequences. Because either way, if I try to be polite about it, it's not going to change anything. You know what I mean? If I try to be kind about it, it's not going to change anything. So I might as well just say how I feel, and this is how I feel. Men are trash, and then it sort of creates a weird bug in the system with guys who are like, I don't actually know how to respond to that, because I'm raised to believe that I'm not. So the only thing I can retort with that is to just try to rubbish it and say, not all, not this, not that, totally ignoring what the actual reality of what that statement or its roots are.
Yeah. Sirbs, 1 minute, please.
Okay, I dated a not all Bena, right? One of the best relationships of my life. And the reason that it worked in the end is that I was able to teach him why not all men is a stupid statement, but also understand where he was coming from. So I was softer in my approach of men are trash, right? Secondly, social media. I love social media, but social media is the devil. As he said, algorithms, etc., they're going to feed you the negative. You need to remember to come back to base. Base is where you and your partner are. You need to constantly communicate with your partner about what they want, who they are, and try to shut out the noise of social media. Because social media is a liar. Like, it will mess you up. Yeah. That's my 1 minute, because we see things on social media and go, that's what I want, or that's what a relationship is. No, you need to actually figure it out between the two of you. And that's where we go wrong. We're so reliant on what everyone else is doing, and we forget about who we are and what we truly want inside. Whether it's money, whether it's gifts, whether it's whatever. There was a push present discussion that was happening the other day, and I just went, push present, smush present. That's not within my realm. Like, I just want to be with a man and be happy. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Linz, 1 minute. How do we begin to heal this? How do we begin to heal the divide?
Healing.
With everything that is a tough one, but with everything that we've been talking about, what's been going through my spirits is pretty much we need to be more intentional about knowing who we are as individuals, more intentional about putting measures in place in our lives where we figure out who is Lindiwe, who am I, what is my value, what do I have to offer the world, and then when you meet a person or people who have the same who are on the same journey. I mean, you don't always have to be at the same place because we're all different and we come from various backgrounds. Then you're able to understand each other's value and feed off that and build a relationship based on that.
Yeah.
For me, I think that would be the starting point, understanding my value. So when I meet someone, I know what I have to offer and I'm able to receive what they have to offer. Because I'm also not piggybacking off of, I need you to make me happy or I need this from you, but this is what I have and let's share. I think that's a starting point for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vos, closing thoughts?
I think one main thing is that you have to be brave, right? And I know the current rhetoric is that you have to be brave in walking away when you need to, but at the same time you have to be brave in staying, right? The strongest thing that you can do can't always be walking away, because then you'll always be walking away just to prove your strength. You'll be walking away from everything just to show that you're strong. And I think more importantly is that we're not born with a certain amount of love, like water in a jar that runs out over time. And that if you give half to that person and you give half to that person, then you're all out. You know what I mean? Give yourself the permission to start over whenever you need to. Regardless of your experience with however many people, you can still replenish it. You can still replenish yourself, and you can still be able to give your all in every relationship. You know what I mean? But be brave in exploring yourself, and be brave in who you encounter.
I agree. I think what definitely resonates with me is something that Vos and Lins have said, and Sibs, actually everyone, which is really in a nutshell, look more inwards than outwards. You know what I mean? There's so much noise. So much noise, but really what you want, who you are, where you're trying to go, it really all sits in you. But it's something very difficult to engage with and to find in a world that's so loud and distracted and distracting. Can you let our viewers know where they can engage with your content, what your handles are, where they can listen to your podcast, etc.?
Okay, cool. I'm on Facebook as Vusumzi Ngande, and I have a podcast called The Journey Kwantu.co.za. It's a podcast that focuses on African spirituality and Black identity. I have on Instagram, I'm on Thokoza Dlozi, which documentation of African spirituality and African spiritual practices. And also on Marvin.co.za, which is a men's magazine. You can check my content there as well.
Fantastic.
I love Marvin. Marvin
is a friend of mine.
Marvin is a friend of mine.
Thank you, Vos. Thank you, Sibs. Thank you, Lins. Thank you to everyone who watched with us tonight. We'll see you again next week, 8 p.m., live on Facebook, live on YouTube. You can also follow our Instagram page, which is Red Wine Cigs. Follow us. Continue the conversation. Feel free to keep commenting. If there are any topics that you'd like us to have on the show, you can write on our wall. You can inbox us. It's been an awesome one. Have a good night. Keep warm.
Can I suggest a topic?
You can.
Black women and wine.
Black women and wine.
Yes.
We will take that under advisement. We are way over time. Good night, y'all.